I think you're muted, John. We can't hear your microphone.
Yeah.
Can anyone hear John?
I can't hear him.
I can't either. Sorry, John.
I just got chucked out and I've come back in.
Now? Okay. Now I can't hear anyone else though.
We can hear you.
Aha. Okay.
You hear me? Yeah.
Good enough for now.
Yeah.
So where did we get to? We were just introducing Nick Rousseau, who is one of our international liaison managers, who is responsible for engaging the big appliance manufacturers, both the multinationals and the OEMs in India and China. So Nick is going to present a survey that he's developed in order to understand the state of the appliance market in each of the MECS focus countries. So I'll hand over to Nick and let you take it away from here.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, well, I'm looking down the list. I recognise quite a number of the names, but not everyone. So hopefully this will lead to some further conversations afterwards. I've been working on this survey that I'm going to describe for some time. I would say it's not 100% polished. I'm relatively new to this kind of role. It's been a while since I've been a researcher. So I'm happy to have input and suggestions on particularly how to make it as easy as possible for people to use. So I'm hoping it will enable us to collect some useful data. So what I want to do today is just explain my role. Some of you may not be that familiar with it. And the things that I've been learning as I've been talking to these companies and therefore why we're gathering this information. I want to show you some data that we gathered when we did a little pilot thing a while ago, and then talk about the survey tool itself, and then discuss how we can go forward.
Nick, sorry, I'd forgotten that when I suggested skipping the intros, I'd forgotten that you'd not been to the sessions before, that you don't know who the people are. So maybe let's just very quickly go round the circle. I'll suggest people so that we know who to go next, and just say who you are, what your role in the MECS program is. So John Leary, researcher with Loughborough University in Gamos, specialising in behavioural change and linking our work in Kenya. Anna, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Anna Clements. I work for Gamos from Switzerland, and I am the Tanzania link researcher.
Will?
Hi, I'm Will Clements. I'm a PhD student at Bristol University.
Other Will? Will Coley, we cannot hear you if you are speaking now. So Will Coley is a researcher with the University of Strathclyde, working in Malawi, working on the global market assessment. Let's move on to Nigel.
Hi, Nigel Scott at Gamos. We do all sorts of things, kind of help people with data and so on. Yep.
Sam Williamson.
Hi, Sam Williamson from the University of Bristol. I supervise Will and do lots of different energy access projects.
Joni.
Hi everyone, I'm Joni. I coordinate communications for the MECS programme based here in Loughborough.
Thank you. Meron?
Hi, Meron. UCL MECS supporting Uganda and Ethiopia.
One day I will learn how to pronounce Meron the right way.
You're getting there.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Matt Little?
Hi there, yeah, I'm Matt Little. I'm a researcher at CREST. I'm not actually part of the MECS team, but I'm in the Renewable Energy for Development team with Richard.
Thank you. Am I?
Hi, Amai here from ID Cambodia. I'm a researcher and designer having worked previously on the MECS Trade Challenge Fund and now conducting some market testing and experimental sales in Cambodia to understand the extent of uptake in electric cooking.
Thank you. John Barton.
John Barton, Crest, Loughborough University, doing technical design of the pilot systems and appliance testing.
Thank you. Surendra.
Hi everyone, this is Surendra from Nepal. I work in MECS project.
Thank you. Cypros.
Hello everyone.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Cyprus. We are here with Victoria Johannes. We are the MECS partners, Southern partners, and you're based in Kenya. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And then we have one last person, Simeon. Is this Simon Batchelor or is this a different person? Simeon, we cannot hear you if you're speaking.
Sorry, Wi-Fi connection. Yeah, I'm Simeon. I'm an undergrad at Lancaster. I'm doing a summer internship with Gamos, doing some research for them.
Fantastic. Welcome, Simeon. So back over to you, Nick.
Thank you. I'm going to attempt to share. How is that looking? Can you? Oh, wait. Is that? Can you see my PowerPoint slides?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. So yeah, so my title is International Liaison Manager. As John says, my main role is working with the companies around the world that make cooking devices, electric cooking devices specifically, and working to persuade them to make their devices or adapted device versions of the devices available in our target countries. They're all businesses, and so they want to understand what the opportunity is for them, what the competition's like, what the market is, how much they can charge, and that will hopefully help them to feel that this is a worthwhile focus for them. And as we've got quite a number of countries that we're working with, I suspect they'll want to be selective and initially maybe start off with just 2 or 3, the ones that they feel are the best prospects. So what I've been doing is I've been talking to these companies, and we're talking people like Panasonic and Bosch that you'll have heard of, quite possibly, but also instant brands that make a great many instant pots, EPCs in North America, Morphy Richards in the UK, which makes different cooking devices, Group Seb, which is a large French group, so quite a range of different companies, and I've been getting to know what their questions are, and hoping that we can then get answers to those questions through the research that we're doing. And there's 2 pieces of work that we're doing focused on the cooking device market. One is the survey, which I hope many of you will be involved in. Some of you already have, for which I'm very grateful. And also we're buying data on the devices that are imported into the different countries where that data is available. So I can get. All right, next slide. So here's some data just to give you a sense of what we kind of hope to get and the kind of insights that it'll gain. So this is when early on we were designing the questionnaire survey, and I had an research associate who helped me with doing some studies. Hello? Had some data from the Kenyan online retailers. So this is all relating to Kenya. And the first, on the left, you can see a table showing the different frequency with which different types of device were available. See what's more common. So interesting that there are 15 different electric pressure cookers available, but clearly rice cookers are the most popular in terms of the variety of models. And then you can look at the prices that are available, and we were targeting both the sort of the cheapest and the most expensive, just to get a sense of the range and the diversity, but also trying to get a sense of the kind of the the bulk where the most of the devices are priced, what that price is. So and we've got the brands there so that you can see which brands are at different price points. So again, you can start to see people can look at this and compare where they might sit within that. Maybe identify if there's a gap in the market for a cheap something or whatever. Next slide. I have to click. So the other thing we've been looking at is the kind of language that companies are using when they describe these devices. I guess we're very focused on energy efficiency, but we don't know if that's what people are essentially looking for. So this is just a bit of an extract from, again, the descriptions on the websites of these devices to see how they're being promoted. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump there. And then the last slide of this set is about the import data that we're buying, which is giving us further insight. So on the left, it shows us the importers that are named as bringing cooking devices into Kenya. So that's a useful list for us to share, to show that the main ones and to show the kind of value of cooking devices that are coming in and the number of imports that have taken place. This was over the last 6 months. And then on the right, obviously looking at the different types of cooking devices that are coming in, again, by volume, so we can see which are the more popular types, which seem to be therefore selling well. And again, the average value of them at the point where they enter the country. So it's interesting data, and it starts to point to some sort of helpful sort of senses of where things are on that. Does anyone want to kind of comment or make any observations about any of the data that I've just shown?
I have a quick question about you mentioned the appliance that is most popular. How do you determine which one is most popular? Is that just one of the questions? Which model is most popular?
This one.
Yeah.
I think because on most websites, you can look at, there's a kind of customer rating. So, you get stars, 0 to 5 stars. So I think Chandel just sort of looked at the one that was a highly rated one and the cheapest of those highly rated ones. So maybe ones that had 5 stars. I can't remember the specifics, but is that kind of a way of assessing it?
I thought it was done by using the search and then clicking most popular in the filters. When you search on these like shop websites, it comes up, you can like price low to high, high to low, and then you can choose like most popular. That's what I thought it was.
You may be right, but that should come out with the same thing, I guess, if it's looking at the yeah, I don't remember. It was a while since we actually did this initial piece of work. But I think one of the things about the input data that's rather annoying is that microwave ovens actually have a whole different category in the coding. So this doesn't reflect the true extent of microwave purchases. I think microwaves are actually a lot more common and popular than this suggests. Okay, anyway, so you can start to get a sense of where this could lead. So we're now looking at the way forward, having developed 3 survey tools, which I'll explain shortly. And what we want to do is to provide the companies with an overall sense of the market, and then where they have particular interest in certain markets to then go into more detail. And it seems to us that looking at the online retail outlets and looking at the stores in your capital cities provides the lowest cost way of getting some useful data. So we're proposing a first phase, hopefully complete by the end of July, which looks at least 4 national online retail outlets. So we're not looking at the likes of Amazon and Alibaba that are kind of global. And 4 stores in the capital city. And that's a mixture of availability data and sales data, and I'll come on to that shortly. And what we'd ideally like is the sample to consist of, if you've got like some premium or higher price, more expensive outlets that focus on that market, and then maybe some more budget focused ones, so a bit of each of those. And equally, if very general and maybe some that are very specific on prices. So we get a bit of a sense of the variety. And we just want to get that range of what's out there, what kind of prices they're going for. And then the phase 2 would be if there is a particular interest in a country, that we would follow that up with something which involves a bit more legwork, involves going out to different parts, maybe different towns, into the rural areas, and looking more broadly what's available. I think that would give us a different kind of insight into the market. And what we had hoped to do is we can repeat this each year. Hopefully it'll be easier and quicker in future years. And then hopefully, as I say, we will be able to see this changing and seeing more devices available, and potentially seeing the shift of the kind of devices that are coming in. And that combination of looking at what's available on the shelves and looking at the volumes imported should help us to paint that picture. So what's the survey tool going to look like? So we're using something called Kobo Toolbox. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but it's a tool that enables me to code a set of questions and to tell what the kind of answers to expect. And then through a web browser or through a phone app, I think it's only available on Android phones, you can then go out into the shops, or you can sit at your desk or your home and work through the questions and pull down the data from the website or go around the shelves of the shop. And it's relatively easy to use. And it asks things like, do you sell electric ovens? And if the answer is no, then you don't have to answer any more questions about electric ovens. So it tries to make it as efficient as possible. What I've done here is just set out what we're asking in terms of the products that are available through online retail outlets. And I think it's pretty much the same in shops. So basically, we want to know when it's been done, what country you're from, what the retailer is, just note the currency, and then say something about the outlet itself. Does it deliver nationally or only within the capital city? And how broad is it? Is it a generalist outlet or more specialist? And then for each of the types of cooking device on the right, it asks the same question. So identify the cheapest, get some details of that. The most expensive, get some details of that. And then try to identify where the majority of the devices are priced. Maybe there's a range between, I don't know, $20 and $30 or something like that. And then select one from that range. So that's just to get a kind of midpoint between the two extremes. In terms of the types, the list is as set out there, but Anna has pointed out that it does include rice cookers. So that is probably worth adding in as a distinct category. I think I'd kind of hadn't thought that through properly, or no one has spotted it before. But I assume everyone would agree that we ought to look at rice cookers as a distinct category. I think they're sufficiently different from slow cookers and certainly from electric pressure cookers. Then the next one, the last slide, pretty much the last slide, is about what is selling. So this is the idea here is if you can talk to a shop manager or shop owner, you have to explain about what we're doing, explain that the data will be held confidentially, but that we will be doing a report which summarizes the products that are available and their prices without referencing individual shops. And that report will be shared with the shop managers, which hopefully they will find useful. And then sit down with the shop manager if they're willing and ask them to share some of their sales data from the previous year. If you can just specify what the time period is for that, and then go through a set of questions as indicated here. So, again, by type, what are selling, what's the numbers that they're seeing sold, and then something about the kind of their observations about what people like about these, and also about how the market is changing. So trying to get a sense of kind of what customers are looking for from this. And I think that's pretty much it, but I can show you the, if I'm still on sharing a screen, which I think I probably am, I can show you I'm doing a guide, which I will share once this is over, which includes links to the websites where you can go straight to and enter the data. So it's very simple. So if this is Amazon or something, you'd write that. And so you go through it. It gives you a bit of instruction about what you're explaining. Put in the date. So as far as possible, it's automated. And then this is if you're getting the sales data. So it could be Jan to December 2019, and so on. And so you ask, do you sell electric ovens? And if they say yes, you then get to questions about how many have you sold, what's the most popular model, and that sort of thing. So I'll pause there, see if people have got any questions, and then we can go through this in more detail, or we can have a discussion. Any questions, maybe to start with?
I have a quick question on the import data, Nick.
Oh, yes. Sorry, who's that asking?
Sorry, am I from ID Cambodia?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Yeah. So could you talk a little bit about your sources for getting that data and how you actually, I'm assuming it's mostly secondary?
Okay, well, yeah, good question. We've found 2 or 3 companies that sell import data. They have different sort of charges for it. What we've not found actually is anywhere that's got data from the Southeast Asian countries. So at the moment, we've got a set of data that relates to a number of the African countries, but we haven't found anyone that holds that for your country, Cambodia. So I'm keen to work with you if we could find a way of getting hold of that. It is essentially secondary data. They just, I guess, they must buy it off the country border authorities, because the different countries do tend to have slightly different data sets, as Nigel has found. So sometimes you have to do a bit of reconciling to try to align them up and to enable to make comparisons.
And what is the process? Are you aware at all of the process for these companies to aggregate this data?
I can't honestly say that I am. No. What you buy is you specify the code of the type of product that you're interested in, which, like I say, doesn't include microwaves, but includes a range of other electric cooking devices, and the time period that you want it, and they then give you a price, and you just get sent a large spreadsheet per country. Maybe we could talk separately. I mean, I'd be keen to talk to you about this, and also the colleague in Nepal, to see if we can find ways of getting similar data for those countries. That would be worth doing.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Hey, can I ask, can we look at the list of appliances that you'd included, where you said you'd added in the rice cooker?
Yep.
So I see on there, there's induction stoves, but there's not infrared stoves. Infrared stoves are one of the appliances that Kenya Power are promoting, and they're also quite popular in Asian countries as well. In Myanmar, then they were seemingly in a similar popularity to induction stoves, but the difficulty is it's often very difficult to tell the difference between them. I mean, physically, the induction stove heats using magnetism, and the infrared stove heats using radiation. So you can use any pot on it. Induction stoves, you have to use steel. So that they physically use a very different process to cook, but they both look like flat-topped rectangular units. So whether you'll even be able to differentiate in the shops, many people, sales agents, don't actually know the difference. And in terms of the import data, they may just get branded as induction stoves. Or I saw you had a group of just electric stoves, which is just a catch-all for everything.
Yeah. Yes, we're obviously limited by the quality of the data. I guess they could also be confused with hot plates. I don't know if they're visibly different.
Yeah, I mean, hot plates are more different. Induction stoves and infrared stoves physically look very similar when they're not turned on. Hot plates, possibly. The other one that's not in there that is very relevant in Myanmar in particular is the the electric frying pan. Sorry, I say red because that's what everyone calls it, the red pan. But it's just an electric frying pan, but it's one that's very insulated on the bottom. And you'll see it in many urban homes especially. It's very popular for cooking curry.
All right, well, I'll make a note of those and we'll give that some thought. I guess the infrared thing is if we can give the enumerators some clear instructions, where to look, look for the word induction or infrared rather than just looking at the box and sort of your own guess, then potentially it ought to be possible to differentiate them. There must be something written on them that says.
Yeah, the other way you can tell is if it lights up and it's bright red on top when it's cooking. Often you see the picture on the box, it will show that.
Right. Okay. All right, well, let's look at that. And frying pan, if that's important, then we can include it clearly.
Yeah. Are there any other appliances that other people on the call can think of that we should be including in this analysis?
The one that comes to mind for me is, in Malawi, they have any number of different types of devices for heating water. You've got like very basic ones, which is just like a heating element that they drop into a bucket of water. And then there's more sort of kettle type ones, which is like a bucket with a heating element installed in the bottom of it. I don't know how you do that. And I don't know whether they're very present online, but it's certainly in local markets and in like shops in the cities, there's loads of different water heating devices.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen a lot of those in Zambia as well.
Would they be relevant? I guess I've got a category which is electric kettle or other water heaters, but I don't know if that's too broad. I'm presuming that the cheapest of those would then be, like you say, just an element that is freestanding, and the more expensive then will be a proper kettle as we would recognise them.
So, Will, would they be locally manufactured or would they be imported?
I think some of them are probably, the vast majority are probably imported. But I do think some people probably make them themselves. I've seen some things which are literally just like wires on the end of a plug. Really safe, obviously. But that being said, I do think there's a lot of that stuff which probably is imported from China and places like that.
I think the elements on these are often imported, but then people buy a locally produced bucket and then just cut a hole in it and stick the element in that, right?
Probably that as well, yeah. There's probably a whole spectrum of different things.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the aim of this, and I'm not primarily looking at people bringing in devices which should be in that kind of category, if you like. So I'm not too fussed if you'd like that we don't pick up on those kind of more basic devices. But do other people feel it's worthwhile?
John here. I think it's worthwhile. Different sorts of water heating appliances, large urns are separate from kettles, for example.
The other one in terms of water heating devices is a thermopot. So it's like an insulated kettle. It's lower power, and it's kind of like a thermos around the outside, although not quite as good at keeping the heat in. So, John, that was what you tested in your recent report, wasn't it? A thermopot?
Yes, that's one of them. And since then, I've tested a more basic 10-litre urn as well, but not written that up yet.
Yeah, I've not seen them in many places. We had a lot of trouble even finding them in Dar es Salaam, but in Yangon, they were everywhere, very popular.
Okay. Well,
so I'm just coming back, Nick, to what you are proposing the purpose of the survey was. I completely agree. We've identified water heating as a really important part of domestic cooking practice, if I can put it that way. But I just wonder if your survey is really focused on the sort of the food cooking equipment.
Well, it is, yes. And that's certainly where I'm targeting my kind of engagement in terms of companies, is the extent of availability of water heating devices. How does that shed light on what we're trying to address? And John, you said it was important. So what was your interest in this? Because you think it's part of what people will use to cook with?
Yes, that so many heating events are heating water, not necessarily heating food, and that heating water during the middle of the day offers a way of reducing the load on the battery by using solar power directly in off-grid solutions.
I mean, heating water is a big part of cooking itself. I mean, there is a reason, as much as we criticise it, there's a reason why they developed the water boiling test as the standard test for cook stoves.
Yes, I think clearly it's important in terms of understanding the behaviour. What I'm not sure is whether it's relevant to understanding the market. It sounds like these are pretty prevalent already. Do we think there's a need for more? Is it useful to get some data on what's available? Obviously there's anecdotal evidence that you're all citing. So this will be a way of getting some substantial evidence to back it up. Okay, and it sounds like it's of interest. So.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying earlier on, Nick, that you wanted to be able to track changes in the market, and certainly the MECS program is interested to see changes in the adoption of electrical cooking appliances. I wonder if we're likely, or would we expect to see an increase in the adoption of electric water heating appliances? I guess in terms of the transition from biomass to electricity, yes, we would.
I guess you could plot a sort of notional journey, couldn't you? That people initially all they can afford is a very basic water heater to use their electricity to do something that's cooking related, and then that leads into them using more complex bits of kit. So that in a sense the demand for this could drop potentially. Okay, all right. Well, I think there's a sense that this is pertinent. We don't know quite what it'll tell us, and it may be less relevant to my needs than more to the overall sort of analysis of the cooking system and electric cooking behaviours.
Sorry, Nick, can I raise another appliance, which is, I mean, we were doing a bit of poking around and found that you can get gas and electric ovens, and also gas and electric hobs, which can even be desktop hobs. So I don't know quite where they fit in. You could ask the people just to include them under electric, but tell them to keep their eyes open for gas and electric. So I've seen these worktop hobs which have 3 gas hobs and 1 electric. Maybe you could say whether that such things exist in the Asian markets.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because actually Bosch, when I spoke to Mary, who's in Kenya, worked for Bosch, her belief was that the only Bosch cooking product that is on the Kenyan market was a combined gas and electric cooker. Whereas actually that didn't seem to be, and we've got these here, electric and gas cookers as a distinct category. So that probably is an important thing to have on our radar.
That, of course, opens up the question then, are you just stopping at electric? Or are you also interested in gas?
We'd had that debate at the start and decided that we would focus on the gas.
Okay.
Gas.
Got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nigel, could you repeat your question again? I think I lost you.
So I was just pointing out that when we did a bit of poking around looking at these list of appliances for Nick, we came across a number of, they're both gas and electric hobs. So they tend to have 3 gas hobs, which you'd supply off of a bottle, LPG bottle, and they've got a single, so the 4th hob is an electric one, which it doesn't really exist in the UK European market, but it does appear to in African market. So I was just asking whether you're aware whether that is a product commonly found in the Asian markets.
Right. So I think proximity to Chinese manufacturing is a huge factor. And because of that, you do tend to find one-off instances of electric and gas kind of double combination hobs, but they're very, very few. They're not manufactured in Cambodia. As far as I'm aware, you would find them in Thailand and maybe Vietnam, but the supply chain would definitely trace back to China.
Yes, it's interesting. One of the surprising findings that Nigel and I have found from the import data is that the majority of electric cooking devices seem to be coming from Turkey, which was a complete surprise to me, having put all this effort into the China strategy. And I don't know if they're manufactured there or whether Turkey is a sort of midpoint for some things. But
yeah, I can't believe they're manufactured in Turkey. They must be just routed through the importer.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Hello?
So a quick question. Yes, hi. Are you also going to collect data on import tax for different appliances? Because sometimes there are, I also wonder if you're also checking if you're going to do this every year to see the impact of change in import tax some countries have. Like, for example, in Ethiopia, a couple of an air fryer or a deep fryer, you pay in total of like 30% tax, whereas a cooking oven, electric oven, you pay around 65% tax. And that kind of difference, then I wonder if you're also going to be looking into how that kind of impacts what importers bring in and also the local market price.
That's it's certainly very pertinent. It wouldn't be in the import data that I'm getting through this. I'd have to do a separate piece of research to understand the policies that relate to that.
Probably won't be difficult because most countries also put online what they charge customs for different appliances.
Thank you. I've seen, is it Nigel? People are posting photos, and I don't seem to be seeing them, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
One other one, I don't know if you can differentiate between those like mini sort of worktop oven hot plate type devices. They're it looks like a microwave with hot plates on the top, but it's like a mini oven with hot plates on it. I don't know if there's a way to differentiate between those, because they're like a kind of cheap in between getting a hot plate and getting a fully fledged like mains connected oven and hot plate. There's a picture, I think Matt Little shared my device images from the Malawi survey. There's a picture of them in the middle there somewhere.
Okay, so a combination of a sort of stove, a sort of a surface for putting pots on, and a cooking oven that you can cook things in. Yeah,
they're like sort of like the miniature versions of the kind of electric oven hot plates that you get in the UK, but they're like miniaturized that they go on a desk on a worktop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess these are things that we could ask people to look out for. They may be less common. I don't know quite how. I have to work out how to define that, but I can see the concept, certainly.
Can I just ask? This is really, really interesting. I was just wondering what's driving sales. So obviously, is there obviously someone's got to take a risk to import a certain amount of things, so the sales of things do not specifically mean that that's what's wanted or needed. I'm just wondering if you know what's driving it or if there's any work happening on that.
If you're asking me, I can't say that I do. And the questions I want to ask about shop managers, what they perceive is selling well and what people are asking for, is the closest I can see to trying to get some sense of what the customer's expectations are and what they're coming in. It would be interesting to know, wouldn't it, if they've seen in Kenya, one of these videos that are being promoted about cooking with EPCs, if that's driving their things that they've heard from other people. but they, as you say, they may be asking for things that aren't available, or they may not be aware of things that are available.
I think I have a question about the types of retailers that you're selecting for the survey. So I think you mentioned that you were going to pick a few from more of the, like the high-end, official kind of stores, and then a few of the kind of low-end, more informal stores. Is that correct?
Well, I'm happy to be guided. That's where my knowledge of the retail landscape in your country is much inferior to your. So what do people feel? And it seems worthwhile looking at sort of, in terms of the online stores, getting a selection which are generalist and specialist and maybe premium and more budget. But in terms of actual stores in the city, I'm sure there's a whole range of different outlets where people can buy electric cooking devices. And I honestly don't know how to structure any kind of sample or how to sort of map out that diversity. So very happy to be advised on what's realistic. And to some extent, I could say to the people who do the survey that, use a selection which is sufficiently broad that you cover most types of outlet. And then ideally, go back to the same ones next year and repeat the process. But again, this is I kind of don't. Oh, so just put it back to you, I guess, John and others.
In terms of volumes, sorry, I was just going to say, in terms of volumes, maybe wholesalers could also be an interesting, point to mine some data of sales.
Wholesale, is that distributors, you mean, or wholesale retail outlets?
Both retail as well as distributors.
I'm making a note. John, did you
think about the
or anyone in the go on?
Oh, I was going to say the thing about the wholesalers is also they can tell you where they're shipping it, to which part of the country they're sending out things, because it's not going to be possible to cover the whole country.
Okay. Can I ask, as I understand it, our southern partners are being asked to do a kind of telephone interviews of key stakeholders. I don't know if importers and distributors are sort of in your radar for that, but certainly there's lots of questions. If I could get hold of a distributor or two, that I'd like to ask them.
Yeah, I don't know if that's happening in all countries. That is particularly related to the activities that the Kenyan partner ACT, who are on the line today, are carrying out, and also Nuvoni, who are working with the group at Sussex on the Innovation Systems work stream. So I don't know whether that's happening everywhere, but I imagine that most southern partners would be able to connect you with distributors that would then be able to have that conversation with you, depending on whether English is their first.
Yeah, sure.
I think in terms of the retail outlets, it is worth capturing a broader range of outlets. Like thinking about, for example, Kenyan context, and you have the supermarkets, a big kind of center for selling appliances, and you also have specialist appliance retail stores. So they're perhaps the wholesalers that have retail outlets in shopping centers, or stores that just sell electrical appliances. And then you have the kind of more kind of semi-formal ones where they're kind of smaller shops in a different area of town, less kind of modern. And then you often have a more market kind of style where you've got like people selling fruits and vegetables on tables out in an open area, and also sometimes selling electrical appliances, more so in Dar and in Lusaka where electrical appliances are more common. But I think it's also worth including those more informal outlets as well, because I mean, just the fact that you see informal outlets selling electric appliances is an indicator in itself. You don't really see that so much in Kenya.
Yes. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think we need to come up with a list of a way to categorize these in a sensible way, isn't it? Whether to categorize them by the actual form of the shop, like, is it in a department store? Is it in an out of town shopping center? Is it in the city center market? Is it like some way of sort of categorizing those into groups?
I have attempted to do that in the this doesn't show it because this is the online outlets, but I have attempted to do something like that, certainly. So aiming to capture some of that kind of observation about the nature of the outlet. But yeah, that's, I think, some kind of categorization. I think what you described makes a lot of sense to me.
So can I invite any final questions for Nick then, or any final questions from Nick to the group before we start drawing the session to a close?
I guess my question to everyone is, and obviously I need to do a bit more work on this. Some people have already made good progress. I know in Zambia and Uganda, we're getting data coming through on the online stall. So I probably need to pause that while we finalize the list of devices and these other points that people have made. But I'm hoping that in most countries, this kind of study can be done. I think the phase 1 notion of a looking at 4 online outlets and then a selection of retail outlets within your central capital area, city, as it were, hopefully is relatively doable with just a few days' work. So it'd be really helpful to know from people if they can take that on within their current program, or whether we need to look at ways of enhancing that. That's my initial position.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, any final questions from the other group members for Nick? Okay, well then I'd like to say a big thank you to Nick for taking the time to put this together and share this with us today. Another very useful tool in our toolbox. Nick, I'll also follow up with you afterwards about how to add this into the MECS Field Researchers Toolbox, which is an Excel sheet and accompanying set of folders in the shared drive, where we're trying to add all of the different methods that we're using in different places and the supporting documents that can enable people to carry out those studies, and of course the link to the person who is the keeper of that method, if you will. And you very clearly are the keeper of the Appliance Availability Survey.
Okay, thanks, John. And if anyone else thinks of anything, after the call, then get in touch. I'm happy to have thoughts. So we clearly need to lock this and sort of stop developing it shortly, so that we can then start to collect data in earnest. Great. No, thank you for all your time. It's been good.
So I'll end with my usual final question, which is, does anyone have any ideas for future topics? Or does anyone want to express a preference for an idea that has been submitted before? I'll just go through the list of ideas that we had from previous sessions. And then if anyone, as I'm going through, thinks of another topic, please do let me know at the end. And if anyone has a preference for any of these topics, or an idea for something else, that another kind of speaker that we could invite to come in and share a methodology with us, then please do say so. So one idea that we had suggested by Joni was incorporating the Leave No One Behind agenda into research methods. So something that can cut across all research methods. Joni's just started a research blog on this, so check out the MECS website if you want to find out more. Elisa Pozzola has suggested...
Yeah, we're really keen.
Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say that we're really keen to promote the Leave No One Behind agenda for the programme. So if you want to provide details of how your current activities are ensuring this and promoting this, then it'd be great to feature these and showcase these on the website.
Thanks, Joni. Yeah, so we also have an idea from Elisa Pozzola, which is the safety of EPCs, always an important topic to discuss and something that has caused challenges for us in a number of different projects. From Dipti, we had the development of video tutorials for remote training. Is Nigel still with us, actually? Nigel Scott, are you still here?
I might be.
Yeah, so you disappeared last time, just after this, or just before this was suggested. So what this was given the context of COVID, especially now, then how can we draw on the techniques that we have for training enumerators remotely? And so I said I would follow up with you after the session, but then I had a conversation with Nick and we went with this one instead. What I had thought about doing was possibly a joint session between you, who have many years of experience of training enumerators, both in person and remotely, and Agnes from Jikoni Magic, who has many years of experience of training Kenyans how to cook delicious meals and now how to cook with an EPC. Is that anything that you would be interested in sharing with the group, Nigel?
I'm just trying to think what we could do, because I mean the whole COVID thing, the topic I think is really relevant and a really good idea, but I'm not sure we've actually done an awful lot to draw upon, but we will need to.
Okay. Maybe one for
Let's
further
have a
thought.
think about it.
So Will Coley had also suggested factors to include in the global market assessment, which is a multi-criteria decision analysis that compares all the different countries and tries to work out where are the best markets for the different systems, modern energy cooking systems that we are exploring in our research. We also have the research seminar that Tony Perrett did last week. How many people attended that? It was on DC solar electric cooking, direct drive, so no batteries.
I attended one on street vendors. Is that different?
Yeah, it's that one. No, I sent a link around.
I attended it, John.
I wasn't sure how many people went.
I went to it, John.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, it seems like a few people were there already. There probably is a recording. In fact, I can follow up with Tony and see if I can circulate that as well for those that weren't there. We also have the usability testing for Global Leap, which perhaps could be incorporated alongside the Leave No One Behind one, because Joni and I are currently working on a blog on how we select the super users, bearing in mind the Leave No One Behind agenda. So can I ask, does anyone else have another suggestion that we can add to the list? Okay, John Barton, we can send you the recording of the direct solar. Yeah. Any more topics? Does anyone have a preference for any of the topics that I've just put forward now? Is anyone particularly interested in any of them? Does nobody care and everybody wants to go and have their lunch if they haven't already had it?
John, I mean, I would like the GMA one. It would probably be good to do that either the next one or the following one, just in terms of the project timeline.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be next week, but probably by the following, not next week, the next session, probably within a month is probably a good time to have done it.
Yeah, okay. Great. Any other suggestions? Okay, well, I think we've got two to consider then. We've got either the Leave No One Behind and usability testing, and we've got the GMA as well. So Joni and I have a meeting about the usability testing later this afternoon. Maybe we can discuss and see whether a couple of weeks is enough time for that. Also, we can discuss, Will, I think we have another meeting to go to now as well. So we can discuss between those. If anyone else has an idea in between now and next time, please email it to me. So thank you to everyone for coming along today. Great to catch up with you all. And thank you again to our presenter, Nick, and our diligent note taker, Anna, who has now earned her Get Out of Note Taking free card for the rest of the year. Well done.
Massive win.
Thank you.
Okay, see you later, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Very good.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.